Yeah. Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches podcast. I'm Lolita, the host for tonight. Let me share with you our toll free number so you can give us your questions and comments. The number is 866 538 3664. That number again, 866 538 3664. When we consider the important and priceless commodities for our future, our children and their education is one we cannot afford to waste. With that said, I'd like to present to you Janay Dennis, our guest for this evening. Hello there,
Hello,
Miss
how are
Dennis.
you
How are
all?
you?
Hello, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing
Good,
fine. How are you all
good,
doing?
good to see you.
This being your first appearance, please tell us something about yourself, your goal, and how our viewers can get in touch with you.
Yes, my name is Janay Dennis. I am from Milledgeville, Georgia. I am currently a special needs paraprofessional in the Putnam County Putnam County Elementary School, and I am just delighted to be here today. I am so enthused about talking about education, our children, our families, and our communities. You can get in contact with me at 478-251-3730, and my email is jnydennis@yahoo.com. And I also have my art business available also, JanayZ Art, a joy in a brush, JanayZArt@gmail.com. And you can get in contact with me with that as well.
Thank you for that information. Being in the educational arena, what is the main concern of our children and young people today?
Our main concern is getting their communication up, trying to see what's the gap between home and school and people around us that are in the community. We need to be aware of the gap that we have with children academically, mentally, socially, and physically. We need to know what's going on, and I'm here to help bridge that gap.
Do the parents and the educators, have equal responsibility to the children?
Yes, I feel like we should all work as a team. We should all work as a team because we want our children to be in environments that make them feel like they're at home. Even at school, we want them to feel welcome, loved, and cherished the way they would feel at home. And sometimes we may not know their home life, whether or not it's good or bad, but we need to still be aware that in the school system and make the environment as well-being as we can.
How, how do you think we can open the lines of understanding between the parents and the educator?
I think the communication level has kind of gone from emails to texting versus a verbal conversation with the parent. Sometimes in an email, you can't get what you want across to a parent, and they might not understand what you mean through an email or through a text or through a school web page that may some people may use. Parents don't understand those things, and verbal communication to me sometimes has left the schools, and the parents don't know how to communicate like that.
How early do you think education should start in our children?
Education should start very early. We have to realize that soon as our kids come out of the womb, they're ready to learn. They're thriving between the ages of birth and 3 years old. Those are the most critical time in a child's life. So we need to make sure we not only think about a child entering into elementary school, we need to think about all of these things at home and daycare settings as well.
Earlier we talked and you mentioned something about the daycares and the schools. There needs to be a revamping of how we think and how we fund those. Would you like to elaborate on that a little bit, please?
I feel that we come in, we have daycare facilities, and I feel that they're not funded through the government the way that they should be. If we say that birth to 3 years old is one of the most critical times in a child's life, why are daycare facilities, childcare facilities, one of the most underpaid facilities there are in the education field? We need to make sure we're putting these resources and grants into our childcare facilities to make sure that our children are getting quality education from birth to 3 years old in those settings. And I feel that if the people had more funding in that area so that people can get paid more and further their education when they enter into a child care field and want to work in those fields, they can further their education to learn more about children from birth.
Is there a level that each child care or daycare must reach as the child comes in and then leaves the daycare? Are there subjects they must know and then go on to regular school?
No, ma'am. It's no such thing as standards in a child care facility as far as the strands that we have in daycares that we're learning physical, cognitive, social, and emotional, and we're learning all of those things. And guess what? Those things, when we learn those things in a child care setting as child care providers, those things help when these children enter into elementary school. Because when you think, how do you think they learn how to hold a pencil? They have to develop fine motor skills that are taught in a daycare facility by playing with manipulatives, by playing with blocks and puzzles. They learn those problem solving skills as they play and through play. It's not all about giving it a standard per se. Oh, my child needs to know math. When you're giving those child those blocks, they're learning how to count, they're learning how to problem solve by stacking those blocks. Hey, I have 5 blocks, I have 2 blocks. Those are math concepts that are coming in. When you give them science, when you show them play dinosaurs, that science entering into daycare, all of those things are very important in a child's development from a very young age. So when they enter into school, yes, ma'am, they need all of those things so they can develop in a matter of entering into the school system.
Wow.
Now, I had a question or a comment going back to communication and the education aspect of it. How do we, as parents, from that, as you mentioned, those critical stages between 0 to 3 months, how can we, as parents, start communicating better with our children? Because obviously there is a gap. There is a need here, especially as they get older. There's that gap. That communication is gone. How can we, as parents, from that stage of life, start communicating with our children?
Wow, just verbally talking to your child each day, verbally telling them you have 10 fingers, you have 10 toes, all of those things verbally, and using all of those vocabulary words with your children each day. Those things help your child build vocabulary. If you're at a stop sign with a 2-year old or 3-year old, hey, that's a red stop sign, can you see that? Those are things that we can talk, and that's an everyday thing that we see in the cars. We see the red light, we see the green light. That's teaching them colors. The grass is green, and even at 1 years old, they can understand. Hey, grass is green. So we have to make sure we're using vocabulary with our children each day and not just handing them a cup. Say, hey, this is a cup. And instead of your child pointing at the cup, They should say, "Can I have the cup? May I have the cup?" And those are words that you use with your children to help them further their language skills, and not just handing them what they need. It seems crazy, I know, that you're talking to someone that's not verbally speaking back to you, but the children are taking all of those things in.
I mentioned yesterday about a young child that was in a restaurant and she was dancing and trying to put it on, what is it, TikTok? And she's only about 3 years old. And I was asking you about children who are not so concerned about education, but they're into rap or dancing or drawing. How would you show them the importance of education even in those goals?
In those goals, if you see that your child is interested in technology, put the education in the technology. Try to give them learning things. We have, it's a system out that's called vocabulary. They can use those things. It raps to them. It raps about ABCs. It raps about science. It raps about math. And give your child something exciting with learning. Give them ABC app to look at that's on there. Find something educational on a technology device and let them pursue that, instead of just allowing them to pursue a TikTok or whatever other social media that's not considered learning. And I think we as parents and we as educators, we need to realize that what the kids want and what they need, we can give it to them. We have to show it to them in a manner where they can understand in a technology world. So if she is capable of going on TikTok, that means she's capable of learning and pressing an ABC app. She's capable of learning what's on that app. If she's learning what's on TikTok, she's capable of learning what's on an educational app.
Quick question. Ms. Dennis, thank you for coming on
Oh, you're welcome.
tonight. I met you in the past, and she is a woman of energy. She's a go-getter. I saw her in action one day, and I mean, she was really she got the work done that day. So glad you're here. A couple of questions. If children have disagreements at a young age, how do you mention having that loving atmosphere, cherished atmosphere? If disagreements occur, how do you all bring those two factions back together again?
Repeat the first part.
If your children have disagreements, maybe fights or whatever, or how do you get them back together in harmony in the classroom or in the class setting?
Wow, that's such a great question. When you have children with disagreements, you bring them together and you allow them to talk through their problem and why they may have that problem. And this happens as young as 3 years old, all the way up until, of course, high school. You have to talk about the issue at hand. Hey, Jill hit me. Bill hit me. Why did they hit me? You go to them and you say, hey, you two come together and let's talk about it.
For adults
You
too.
let them know, hey, was that, did you like for them to hit you? No, I did not. Well, let them know. You let Jill know, I don't like for you to hit me. Use their words. That's what we've gotten out of.
It's
Children
true.
don't use words anymore. It becomes physical, which that's okay. We have to bring it back so they can learn how to communicate their feelings. And they're not able to talk their feelings out. That's why it's so many fights in the school system and things like that, because they're not verbally expressing themselves and they're not taught to verbally express themselves at a very young age.
Very good. I want to follow up. Friends, if you're just tuning in, Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches, for those who've been wounded, they're just areas. And Miss Dennis mentioned disagreements, and they are quite common. And if they work for children, they can work for adults also
That's true.
too. She mentioned the communication part of it, talking out the issues. That's what we do here. We bring people together to talk the issues out, discuss, and let God lead in that reconciliation. So thank you for that. But communication, talking about the issues, are very, very important. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know if you had a piggyback question behind that, Pastor, but I did have one if you didn't.
Please go right
But
ahead. You go first.
okay, I did have a question. Going to the older stages, maybe teenagers. How do we bridge that gap as parents now? This is between a parent and a child with that communication, because now they're at a different stage in life. They tend to hold things in. How do we bridge that gap between our children?
The same thing, the same method. Start opening up. If you know that they like to watch a certain movie, hey, let's sit down and watch this movie together. Hey, let's go to the movies together. Let's do all of these things together. Let's go out to the restaurant. Let's go to the park. Let's talk. Let's put our phones away for today and let's see what we can do. Even as young girls, mothers and daughters, we have a lot of kids that like to get their, a lot of teenagers that like to get their fingernails done. They can go to the nail parlor and have a nice conversation. Hey, what did you do in school today? How was social studies? Oh, I know you don't like science, so how is that going? Things like that. You have to be willing to open up and have a communication with your children, just like you would pick up the phone and call your girlfriend and say, hey girl, what are you doing? Speak with them and talk with them in that manner, as like you would be talking to someone else. Not saying that you're their friend, I'm not saying that, but speak with them with authority and let them know, hey, I'm here for you. We can talk. I know I work and I know I do these things, but you still have to open the door for them to know that they can come to you when they need to.
Very true. Thank you.
Did you have another question, Pastor?
Go right ahead, please.
Okay. What are your plans for our young people as you see it?
My plans are to just believe in the children and give them the aspect of they are the world. They can be whatever they want to be. They can just bring the light in if they just open their minds and be creative and not just look at what someone else is doing. I feel and I hope to encourage young people to bring in a positive environment to whatever lifestyle that they may live, whatever job field that they may they go in. I want every child to feel loved, and I want them to know that they are the world. They are our future. And we have to ingrain that in our children and let them know you can do anything you put your mind to, as long as not your mom wants to do it, not your dad wants to do it. As long as you want to do it, you can do anything you want to be. And I mean, you can be anything you want to be. And that's what we want children to know. Not our goals for our parents, not our goals for our friends. They have to understand it's for them and not everyone else around them. They have to want a strong, enthusiastic and vibrant environment. And they have to know that. And I want to help encourage every young person about that. And that's why I have JanayZ Art, because I want people to know that they can express themselves through art. You can paint, you can draw, you can do all of these things and let it out. Let it out in whatever kind of way you want to. But guess what? It doesn't have to be in a negative way all the time. Let's bring in positive things. And like you said earlier, kids like to dance. That's fine. Dance. Let's put it in. Let's make some educational dance move. We have a lot of people that are in the dance industry, but guess what? You still need to know those dance moves, how to study them. That takes your reading skills, your math skills, to and science skills to help put all of these things together. And guess what? You need your education to do these things in the world. And that's why education literacy is very, very important. And I want to let people know that this is what we're here for, to bridge that gap. Let's bridge it, guys. Let's bridge it. Let's make these children feel wanted, feel loved. And we can do that. We can do it.
Good. That's a great point, Janay. I was thinking about, just the teenagers specifically. I mean, I'm in that stage, and with so much social media, with everyone on their cell phones, everyone, so busy in their own world. How do we do that? I mean, I know you're saying bridge the gap. You mentioned some ideas, but specifically with communication, with so much social media, so much distraction, how do we bridge that gap with communication?
The thing is, like I said, people have to understand it's you. If you go home and you sit on your bed or you sit on your couch when you get off from work and you don't communicate with your children, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. And we need to wake up and realize I might be tired, but guess what? Your children's life, education, we don't put a price on those things.
True.
So guess
Very
what?
true.
We have to wake up and say, hey, whoo, I gave these people 12 hours. Guess what? My child deserves some time and they're
That's
going
right.
to get it. And we
That's
just
right.
have to be open minded and we have to pray to God that He gives us the strength to help our children through these, to help us guide our children through what's going on in society and
Right.
through what's
Right.
going on in our homes. Because the environment of the home that you provide for your children, it's very critical in their lives. And we need to make sure that children feel safe in their own home.
I was going to just comment briefly. I was taking notes where you were talking to remind myself of the questions, but three areas you mentioned. Number one, that the child or the saint should feel loved. Number two, they should feel wanted. And the last one, knowing that someone is there for them. Friends, Miss Dennis is talking about children, but also in the church, we can work those same techniques. Again, making the saints feel loved. Number two, being there for them. And number three, making them feel wanted. And I think that'll enhance reconciliation. It will enhance forgiveness, and it will be the prerogative to true unity. Sister Lolita, you had some questions?
When we discussed the children that want to do in the sports and they don't want to hear anything else but the basketball, the football, and education is yet important there, how would you help that child?
If parents are looking at the media now, guess what? They're making it hard for your child to even go into a sport without an education, without some form of education. So guess what, parents? We still have to wake up and bridge that gap, because just because your child can shoot a 3-point shot, they may not get into that D1 school that you think they're going to get to, because they don't have that GPA that you think they should have, just because they have that 3-point shot. And you won't get it because your child has to have an education and they have to be pushed to their full potential while they are in school.
When we talked about getting children into daycares that will teach, where can we find it as a parent now? Where will I be able to send my children that will teach them things that I haven't taught them at home?
Every daycare, and I worked in one, Little Caterpillar Development Center, for 10 years. I've worked at, and I had worked at Child Care Network part-time for a little while. And every daycare that we have in our communities. You all are in Macon,
Yes.
I am in Milledgeville, and the daycares that we have in our town, they are trying their best. They're trying. It's no one specific place. They're trying. Like I said, workers are underpaid. Kids are coming in that don't have that structure. And guess what? These workers are loving on your child. They're giving them the love and care that they need. It may not seem like it, but they're learning through play. They're getting the love that they need from these teachers. And we have to be open and willing to communicate with them. We can't just go in and drop them off. Talk with the teacher. Talk with the workers that work with your child each day. I know I've seen it before. We have parents to come in and they'll say, "Hey," and bye. Okay,
That's it.
that gap is not
Hi and
there.
bye.
Mhm.
That gap is not there, and hey, that's just my day, that's just my daycare teacher, or things like that. But we have to realize that when you go out those doors, these people are loving and caring for your children. Yes, we may have some people that have glitches in their daycare centers, but we're trying to provide high quality daycare for our children. We need the resources in those daycares. That's why I want to bring in a daycare in my facility, in my community as well. I want to let parents know, no matter your child's disability, no matter your child's high or lows, your child can still have a quality form of development at their pace. And I want to be one of those ones to help join our daycares and let them know that we are going to continue to provide high quality daycares for your children, even in low income areas. These people who bring their kids to daycare, speak with these teachers and ask them and let them know what's going on. We have to realize, we see your child crawl. Some of us see your children have their first words, and you might not even know it because, hey, bye. The communication level is not there. And we have to start that early, communicating about our child, even at birth. You should want to know if your child can't have 2 bottles, if your child have had 3 bottles today, versus 3 bottles. If your child eat green beans now and you're not serving them green beans at home, but they like green beans at daycare.
Wow, our time is just about gone. Do want to interject? Uh, when I was in college, I had to volunteer at a Vista Nueva, and they were, I think, 2 to 10. Never forget, they were underpaid, like you're saying, like never before. There was a young boy there, about 6 years old, and he was gifted, but the environment was not able to work with him because of limited funding. And I wonder where he ended up. But they do need to be enhanced in that area of economics, no doubt about it. Miss Lodita.
Yes.
Our time has come to an end. We
Wow.
thank you for your participation, Miss Dennis.
Yes, yes.
And we're also thanking Tennille, our IT and program specialist, Prince, our resident counselor, and I'm Lolita. Good night and thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Amen.